Hey, good evening. Good evening. Cindy Baker, ADHD productivity coach. It's still light outside where I am. I'm in suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. So let me know where you're tuning in from. If you are watching live, then just say hi in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. And if you are watching the replay, let me know that as well. Whatever platform you're watching on, um, I circle back and look at those comments. And so I'm happy to be here with you all. I hope you're having a great Monday so far. And we've got a good topic tonight. We're going to talk about how to retain or keep your focus when your brain doesn't want to focus, when it wants to wander. Um, it's I don't really like the term attention deficit disorder. Excuse me, because it's a common misconception that people with ADHD can't pay attention. But we don't have a deficit of focus. We actually focus on too many things. We can focus. It's just that we have a hard time staying focused and staying focused on one thing. And that's especially true when the activity that requires our attention isn't one that we find particularly interesting or engaging, right? So even if you don't have ADHD, I bet you relate to struggling with focus and staying focused. A lot of people struggle with that. Scattered thoughts, difficulty concentrating. That for ADHD people is just part of living with ADHD. But if you don't have ADHD, you may struggle with that as well. And you may set ambitious goals only to find yourself getting distracted or maybe just walking away completely. And that lack of focus causes real problems, doesn't it? Sometimes. While, you know, you may not be able to force yourself to focus, I will give you that. There are some ways, though, that you can sustain your focus. Um, So that's our topic for tonight. Hopefully, you will find this helpful. And if you do, please let me know. I'd like to know what topics are interesting to people. If you do have ADHD symptoms, whether you're diagnosed or not, and you want some support and help to learn how to manage your challenges and harness your strengths, I'd love to talk to you about my group coaching program. So reach out to me. We'll connect on Zoom and talk and see if it's a good fit for you. But a lot of people ask me, why can't I focus? Being easily distracted when you have ADHD does not mean that you are lazy. It doesn't mean that you have a poor work ethic. It doesn't mean you're being rude. You know, almost all of us have days when we find it hard to stay focused. Distractions, they're everywhere. They're, outside, phone notifications, barking dogs, fighting kids. All of these can pull our attention away from what we should be doing. But having ADHD makes it even more challenging because we actually have distractions inside our own thoughts as well. And the primary symptoms of ADHD are inattention and lack of focus. And the reason for this may lie in your brain chemistry. Research suggests that people with ADHD have lower levels of dopamine and I never can pronounce this right, neuropinephrine. Somebody medical needs to tell me how to pronounce that. Neuroepinephrine, I think. Anyway, they're neurotransmitters in your brain, and they're associated with attention and focus. These neurotransmitters are like that nudge in your brain that motivates you to do stuff. And while focusing may be a challenge, it's not impossible. And in fact, you have to learn how to do it, or you will not be productive. Improving your focus means learning what works best for you. And that might be different from what works for others. It might take some trial and error to find the right methods for you. But there's some strategies that I'm going to share with you this evening that can work, that you can use to boost your ability to focus. So the first one is, and I do this a lot, it's just create a thought dump or a brain dump. Distraction can be one of the greatest hurdles when it comes to focusing on a task. And it can be tempting to want to follow every single thought that pops in your head. Am I right? And you might feel like these new thoughts take priority over what you are currently doing. You know, you're in the middle of assembling a piece of furniture from IKEA and you go, oh, I forgot to put the laundry in the dryer. Well, that could sidetrack you for hours. And so to help honor these other tasks that you want to get around to doing, but while still staying on track from what you are doing, just keep a notepad or a whiteboard or something, even sticky pads, where you can thought dump or brain dump. As a distracting thought enters your head, just write it down, and you know your brain can not have to remember that anymore because you can go look at it later. So your brain doesn't feel like, oh, I got to hold on to that or I'll forget it. It's very relaxing, peaceful, or whatever, to just get things out of your head. So brain dump, thought dump, whatever you want to call it, I highly recommend it. It works for me, works for my clients, and definitely try doing that if you haven't. Now, the second tip is to avoid fatigue. Now, this is one that I'm not always great at, but I'm really trying, because I notice a big difference. It is hard to pay close attention when you're tired. You know, your brain just needs a certain amount of sleep to repair itself overnight. So whenever possible, think about when your focus is the greatest. You know, are you a morning person, afternoon, evening? And then sign up for meetings or classes or agree to do things whenever your focus is the greatest. Know your limits. You know, when you simply can't focus anymore and you find yourself drifting off, when you're talking to someone, just say something. Just say, I'm sorry, can we stop for a minute, and just regroup, you know? If you're on ADHD medication, you might want to switch to a long-acting medication that lasts like 10 to 12 hours. Think about the caffeine that you're drinking. All of those things do affect your ability to focus. And along with that, my next tip is to get moving. If you feel the urge to fidget, go ahead, fidget, jiggle your foot, mess with something in your hands, you know, fidgeting with something. I even know people that will knit while they're listening to something. I don't think I'm that coordinated, but they do. You can chew gum, you can suck on hard candy, even sipping water, you know, especially out of a straw. It sounds silly, but it really does keep your brain engaged to be doing something. And make sure you're getting enough exercise as well, because that really affects your brain chemistry. Now, another tip that may sound kind of weird is to interrupt yourself. Deliberately interrupting a task might help you focus on completing it. I know it sounds strange, but experts theorize that pulling yourself away from a task creates tension and fixation on the task. And that ultimately enhances your focus. So it's like you pull yourself away, and then your brain is like, oh, I want to finish that. And it forces you to focus, which is why I recommend setting an alarm for short breaks. There's all kinds of research that shows that breaks actually make you more productive. Now, I'm not talking about long breaks, no, like 5 minutes, where you physically get up and walk around. But anyway, interrupting yourself is what that's all about. Now, you know, this is not always possible, but when you can, work with someone that you trust. You know, having somebody who supports your efforts might help you keep on track during the day. Just gentle accountability They can gently guide you if you seem like you're distracted and help you redirect your energy. A lot of people with ADHD like to try using a body double, they call it, where you're really just, it could be on Zoom even. You've got somebody else doing something at the same time you are. Might not even be doing the same thing, but it just helps to know there's another person who's aware of your presence so that you don't want to let them down, and it keeps you on track. And if you can't have somebody with you, maybe you can have somebody that just contacts you regularly throughout the day. That's one of the great things about my group coaching program, is that we have gentle accountability. We meet on Mondays, and every Monday we set intentions for the week. And the people in the group know that everyone's going to ask them how it went the following Monday. But that accountability is super important. It helps you stay focused. Another thing that helps is to get things in writing. If you're preparing to attend a meeting or lecture or workshop, if you can, ask for an advanced copy of materials like the meeting agenda or the lecture outline. And then take those materials with you and use them to guide your active listening and your note taking. And some places will actually hand that out to everybody, but always try to have that little structure to keep you focused. Writing or typing as you listen helps you stay focused on the speaker's message. And where you sit matters as well. If you're listening to someone, seat location is critical. Sit up close, facing the speaker. Arrive early to get a good seat away from distractions, such as like a noisy fan or a doorway that opens into a busy hallway. Sometimes I do like to sit on the edge, on the side, or even in the back, where I can actually stand up if I get too fidgety and not call attention to myself, where nobody would really notice. So if that's the case, and you don't want to sit up close, because then you stand up and everybody's like, why is she standing up, weirdo? But if the event is scheduled to run, let's say for several hours, then try like changing your seat after each break. Now I attend a lot of workshops that are on Zoom, and just sitting for hours, I can't do that. It drives me absolutely bonkers, and I can't pay attention. So I put my computer up where I can stand, and then I can like move around and get my fidgetiness, is that a word? Fidgetiness out. But changing your seat after every break helps you periodically focus your attention with a new perspective. So if you are sitting with a friend, you can ask them to tap you lightly if you zone out, or just kind of get your attention. And when you're working individually, make sure you take occasional breaks. Maybe even if you're not in a meeting, you're just working by yourself, maybe change your seat every once in a while. I do that. I sit here at my desk sometimes. Sometimes I'm upstairs where I have like a little recording thing, and then sometimes I'm sitting in that chair back there. Maybe stand up and walk around. That's going to help you stay fresh and stay focused. Another focus tip, and this is a good study skill too, if you have to learn anything, is to review as soon as possible after a class or a meeting. Ask the speaker for a brief review of the main points. Explain if there's a way to talk to them, explain your takeaways and see if they agree. And it's a good time to kind of fill in any missing details and find out exactly what is expected of you next. Like, is there an assignment for you, or what are the next steps expected of you if it was a meeting? And always confirm deadlines. That's super important. And I don't know if this is another tip or if it just kind of goes along with that, but work towards clarity. understanding a task can impact how motivated you feel to complete it, right? If you don't understand what to do, you're going to procrastinate. So projects and jobs that are vague can feel just too overwhelming to start. You may not know where to begin. So if you feel hesitant or distracted about what you're doing, ask clarifying questions. The more details that you know, the easier it can be to create a plan, to create an outline of what needs to be done and what the steps are. Another tip is to give yourself deadlines. Create artificial deadlines. No deadline can fool you into thinking that you have plenty of time to complete what you're working on. And so you've got to have deadlines. Then when you get distracted, you can justify putting off the original task because you think, this is if you have no deadline. When you get distracted, you think you've got all the time in the world to get it done and you put it off. But if you have a deadline, then there's a solid goal and that can help you manage your time. Even if you make up the deadline, it's still, and sometimes it's hit or miss, but it still generally works, tricking your brain a little bit. Another great tip for focus, turn off your phone. If you don't have to have it for your work, turn it off. Or I tell my clients, put it in the other room. It's too easy to have access to social media, games, emails, whatever, because you're bored with what you're doing. It's just so easy to turn to it and go, I just want to look at something else. But if it's off, it takes a lot of time to power it back up. And if it's in the other room, it really is a lot of trouble. So, but when you're looking at your phone, you know how it is. It's like doom scrolling. Before you know it, you spend hours watching dog videos and posting memes. Not that I would know anything about that, but but if your phone is off or in the other room, even if you give in to the impulse to pick it up, you see that it's turned off, and it's going to be like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to look at that. And it reminds you to get back to work. Make sure you use notes, reminders, alarms, electronic reminders, scheduling apps. All of those things can be really helpful to keep you focused. Write a note to yourself. Having an end goal for projects can increase your motivation. And I always tell my clients to break tasks down. Any big, complicated task should be broken down into many steps, achievable goals. And each of those little mini steps should have a deadline instead of one big giant deadline at the end. And so that helps you work on it in stages, and it helps you maintain a sense of accomplishment. And that helps you feel motivated, So I could say a lot more, but those are some great tips to get you started. And listen, if you really want to know how to turn distraction into action, I invite you to my workshop coming up this Saturday, May 18th. It's called From Distraction to Action. And it really is all about how to understand motivation, how to harness it, how to hack back all the distractions in your life, external and internal, and then how to create an individualized roadmap for you, for your success, so that you're living out of your value systems and you feel in alignment with what you think is important, instead of just bouncing all over the place and having a bunch of procrastination and overwhelm and all that kind of stuff. This is a very popular workshop, and I'm actually offering it to my community at a special early bird price of only $47. It's usually several $100s, and you get your own workbook that you can keep. It's 9 a.m. to 12 noon Central, which sounds like a long time, but if there are less people, it's only 2.5 hours. But it is very fun and interactive. We have little breaks. We talk on Zoom. You get to talk, I talk. We do activities together. So it's not like you're sitting and just listening to somebody like you did tonight. Maybe you didn't, I don't know. But if you were listening to the whole thing, you realize I was just talking the whole time. It's not like that. So if you're listening to this, then that means you're part of my community, whether you just found me for the first time or not. I'm not running any ads to this. I just want to serve the people who are following me. So I really encourage you to take advantage. It's live only because of the interactive nature. There will not be a replay. It's not really something you can watch. It's something you do together. And so if it's something that you can swing, it'd be a great use of your time, and it could be life-changing. So I really encourage you to take advantage of that. I will put the link to sign up in the comments, and I hope that I will see you on Saturday. So have a great rest of your